Welcome to one of the many circle sessions hosted by Wonder Girls. Wonder Girls is a nationwide classrooms movement. We bring relatable female role models into classroom settings through our circle sessions. As you will see, the crux of these sessions is its dialogic nature. We're currently working with classrooms across 7 Indian cities and continuing to grow. Our aim is for every adolescent in India to have access to relatable female role models. I welcome you once again and hope you enjoy learning from our role models' life journey and career path.
So before you begin that, I would also like to give a little bit of introduction about you to the students, and also students are very well aware of whom they are interacting with today and what the questions are as well. So you must be knowing what the questions are. So let me also introduce you and also them to you, so that you also are understanding who these students are and where they're coming from, right? So so first of all, welcome ma'am, welcome to the class. Thank you so much for taking time to interact to all of us today. We're very excited to talk to you and interact with you and know a lot of things from you. So I think for all the people in the room, we all know that she is an elephant biologist, and she's currently a Smithsonian postdoctoral fellow. And she's also affiliated with Indian Institute of Science as a visiting scientist. In the past, she has worked in the forests of southern India on wild elephants. And she's also a cartoonist and a poet, and she also writes for a blog. You must all have seen the blog, and there were so many cartoons in the blog. So she takes steps to conserve wildlife and wild animals, especially elephants. So ma'am, the audience today, about our students, right? We are from New Madhu High School. This is a school located in Hyderabad in Parsiguta region. So the students that you will be interacting with today are across grades 8 to 10. So these are the students that you'll be interacting with. So you can, yes ma'am, students, ma'am has something to present to us, and she would like to take forward with the session. So we will listen to what ma'am has to say and then come on asking our questions to ma'am, right? Is that okay? Give me a thumbs up, guys, everyone, if that's okay. Yes, thank you so much ma'am. Over to you, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Balakshmi. I would like to thank Balakshmi and Mansi, particularly Mansi, for giving me this wonderful opportunity and a platform to discuss with the young minds. I'm really fascinated. Always, I like when Mansi contacted me. I told her that I'm really fascinated to talk about elephants in particular to the young kids, because we need more young minds to conserve elephants. And I'm pretty sure, I'm really happy to see at this early hour, so many students, they got up at 9. So me being a scientist, for me, I work till 4 a.m. and to getting up at 9 a.m. is a Herculean task. And I thank all the students for joining for the class. And I have to also say this, that I'm not keeping well, but I'll try my best to talk about elephants, and then also about my journey, that why I became an elephant scientist. So I'd like to share a present. It's not a presentation. I don't want to bug you up in the early morning with presentation. So what I did was, I just created a presentation slide with most of my cartoons, so that you guys will feel very happy. You can have breakfast and watch the cartoons that I have created, and also get inspired in your future. So I'm going to share my presentation. So you guys are able to see?
Yes, Didi.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So let me present it. Okay. So what I have done is so I saw the questions that you guys have wanted to ask about. You were curious to know about. So what I did was I made a small presentation with the title Science. Bhunte. Bhunte is the cartoon character that I have created. I created it in 2016, and if you guys can Google it as a Bhunte the baby elephant in Google, and you can see lots of stories, short stories about elephant biology and the threats that elephants are going through. And I'll also be talking about my journey, but I won't talk in detail about my journey. It will be because I'm being selfish here. I want to endorse elephant rather than me. So please pardon me. But if you guys have any curiosity regarding why I choose this field and all, we'll just have an interaction in the end. Okay. So with this, I have given my email ID here. If you guys have any questions, you can just write to me. So so somebody asked me a question that why I became a scientist, or what is needed to be a scientist. So when we talk about science, so the thing is, science starts with curiosity, that level of question that we have in our mind, why things are happening, why how things are happening, and that kind of curiosity I always had when I was a child. And so that's the reason science is backed up with a thing like questions. So when you are really curious, then you tend to seek the answer. So if you see in science, these questions can be of two types. That is called proximate causation, or when a proximate answer, that what things are happening, what is that thing, and how things are happening. So we call it as a proximate. And if you want to know that why things are happening, that question is called ultimate questions. So in IISc, we are taught to question things that are happening around us. So we either ask proximate questions or we ask ultimate questions. Just keep this thing in your mind. So address proximate questions and ultimate question. There are tools to use it. Like many people, see, if I give you the example of biology, then we use genetic tools, we use physiological tools, we use camera trap if it's wildlife science. So there are different mode of answering these questions. So science is basically about the question that you have in mind. And now talking, since I am a wildlife scientist, so to talking about in wildlife science, what other thing that matters is study model. Study model in a sense, study animal, that what study animal that this question can be applicable and this mode or tool can be used. So in my case, my study animal is elephant. So I'll talk more about elephants so that you guys can feel very happy in the early morning. So since I won't talk about elephant in a normal way, I'll introduce you guys to Bunte. So Bunte, this is a cartoon that I drew long back, and you can see Bunte here, and this is me hiding behind the bush and observing elephants in the forest. So who is Bunte? If you see Bunte, this picture I took when I was in Bandipur National Park. It is a forest in Karnataka. In 2013, I was hiding behind this lantana bush in front of the Bunte, and this elephants, there was a male baby elephant, and it could sense my presence. You can see a sniffing elephant, like it was sensing the presence of me observing elephant. And I was really curious to see that young, very cute animal behaving intelligently. So I was inspired that why should I see elephants? Let all the people see elephants, and that's why I created the cartoon called Bunte. So now, since we are talking about Bunte, whenever we talk about elephants, what comes in your mind? Who can answer me that what do you think of elephants? When it comes, when I ask elephants, what comes in your mind? If someone can answer. Anyone? I'm not able to hear anyone.
Didi, can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
When I hear the word elephant, I remember a huge, big animal, a vegetarian animal, herbivorous, a
Amazing.
type of kind animal.
Wonderful. Yamini, right?
Yes.
Yamini, that's very good. You actually told everything about elephant. So so Yamini thinks that when she thinks of elephant, there is a huge animal that comes to her mind, that is herbivorous. And now when I think of elephants, since I am from Nepal and I'm studying in India, both Nepal and India have the same cultural relationship. I think of elephant as Lord Ganesha. So if when I hear of elephant, the first thing that comes to my mind is Ganesha. So Ganesha is known as Lord of prosperity, wisdom, and happiness, right? Now, if you see the wild elephants are no less than Lord Ganesha, because there are stories, there are anecdotes, there are scientific documentation that has proven that elephants are one of the most intelligent animal, and they have a strong sense of self. They have, actually there is a documentation about it, that they have sense of self, they have sense of love, empathy, they work in team, they have a sense of bereavement, they have memories, creativity, and bonding. So the social bonding in elephant is what elephants are known for. So in this context, I want to share small stories with you guys about how compassionate or how empathetic elephants are. So this is the story of one of the captive elephants in Thailand. So these elephants was happily, following the instruction of Mahout and keeping the wooden log inside a hole. There was a hole, and it was, the Mahout was instructing elephant to keep the wooden log inside this hole, and he was happily following it. But for one of the hole, he resisted. That elephant did not put the wooden log inside the hole. So Mahout was really curious that why he's not following his instruction. He again tried to order or instruct the elephant to do that, but elephant was again backing out. So what happened was, when the Mahout went closer and observed what is there inside the hole, they found there was a small pup. There was a dog pup that was sleeping inside the hole, and that's how, elephants was. If elephant did not have that sense of compassion or empathy, it would have easily kept the wooden dog inside the hole. So that's how it is. There's many such scientific. I think I can hear someone coughing. If all the guys, all the students can, mute their audio, it will be really good. So this proves that elephants are really compassionate towards other living beings. There are many such stories and anecdotes and field notes about elephants showing compassion towards other animals. So why elephants are different than other animals? Who can answer me that when you think of elephant, why you think that elephants are different than other animals? Can someone answer?
Yes.
We can answer.
Go ahead, Sunil, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
Yes. Because elephants are physically different. They have a trunk which many animals don't have. Elephants are the only animals with a trunk and huge body.
Amazing. Sunil, you actually got the right answer. So that is what elephants are different than other animals because they have something called trunk, right? So yeah. So the trunk. So if you see in elephants, elephants have something called trunk, which is nothing but a muscular and flexible extension of upper lip and nose. So when nose and upper lip gets attached over the period of evolution, they develop trunk. So this is one of the baby elephant. You can see how tiny this elephant has, the trunk of the elephant. And the baby elephants are known to they don't know how to use the trunk. So it's really interesting to see them in the forest, trying to figure out how to handle with their trunk. So, and this is really interesting that the elephant use their trunk it has a multiple function, you can say. It's very sensitive and it's highly dexterous. Dexterous in a sense, it acts like a hand for elephant. They can smell things. They can even pick a small needle and a flower through their trunk. They can hold almost 10 liters of water in the trunk, and then they can, sense whether the food is ripened or not. So that's how elephant can use the trunk, and there is multiple function for the trunk, and that's why elephants are different than other animals. So in this context, I would like to take you guys to story 38 million years ago. So 38 million years ago, the ancestor of elephant had no trunk, and it was of the size of a pig. So it's really interesting, right? So this ancestor slowly evolved with necessity of trunk and also tusks. And we have multiple elephants with different kind of body structures and trunk and tusks. But sadly, with the process of different kind of event happening in the world, what has happened is we have only 2 elephants left with us, which is known as Asian elephants and African elephants. So we don't have other elephants with us. So since in India and Indian subcontinent, we have only Asian elephant left. So today's talk or today's class will mostly focus on Asian elephant. So let's see about Asian elephants and what is the difference between Asian and African elephant. In this cartoon, you can clearly see that Asian elephants are smaller in body size, whereas African elephants, they are bigger. And if you see the ear patterns, ear pattern also, ear is also, in case of African elephants, it's bigger in size. Another difference is both male and female will have something called tusk in African elephant, but in case of Asian elephant, female elephant will not have tusk. So there are many such, behavioral, morphological, and habitat-wide changes. In addition, we have three different subspecies of Asian elephants. It is Sumatran elephant, Sri Lankan elephant, and Indian elephant. In case of African elephant, we have smaller forest elephant and savanna elephant. These are the subspecies of elephants. I said in Asian elephants, female will not have tusk, but in case of male, if you see, what happens is in case of male, only male has tusk, but to add to the complexity, there is another kind of male which is called Makhna, and it doesn't have tusk. So it is really surprising that there are two kinds of male in Asian elephants, one with tusk, one without tusk. So the one with tusk is called tusker, and the one without tusk is called Makhna. And let us see about the age structure in elephant. In case of elephants, like I said, they have a very nice family bonding. Okay, they have a very good social bonding, and they are of 4 age classes. So the elephant which is less than 1 year is called calf, which is between 1 to 5 is called juvenile, 5 to 10 is called sub-adult, and anyone above 10, they are called adult. So there are 4 age classes in elephants. So now let's see about Bunte's family. So the elephant social setup. The social setup of elephant starts with mother and calf. So that's a basic unit of family. So the mother and calf, they come together to form sister and their calves, or the family unit. And the sister and calf, sometimes you can see they form a bond or kin group. There will be around 12, 20 elephants together. And on the top of it, there will be, something called clans. Clans are like where there are more than 100 elephants coming together. This picture I took in Kavini forest, Bandipur and Nagarhole in Karnataka. And in this picture, I was not able to capture all of them. There are more than 100 elephants here. You can see, if you can count, only few of them are here. So the social organization or society of elephant is called fusion type of society. That means they come together and they again disperse seasonally. And if you see, the most of the group members are female. So what happens to males? In case of male, once the male elephant gets sexually matured, they leave the herd and they remain solitary. So this is the Makhna male. You can see this elephant do not have tusk, right? So this is Makhna male, and what they do is occasionally, sometimes they form group with other males, and those group are like unstable group. So that's the reason they remain solitary. And when they become sexually active or during periods of reproduction, what they do is they associate with other herd. So this is about elephants, male elephant. Now let us see the sexual activity in male or elephants. The sexual activity in male elephant is called mast. I think if you guys have gone to, forest or in captive condition, you may have seen elephant having swollen forehead. There will be some secretion coming out. So this is when the male elephant gets sexually active. In such period, there will be many kind of changes happening in elephant. So this swelling in forehead is called temporal gland, and this water coming out is called temporine hormone. Okay. So what this temporine hormone does is it helps in signaling other males that, see, I'm in sexually active phase, so I'm going to compete to find a better females. And they'll be continuously dribbling urine. So that is way of chemically informing other individual. And also this hormone, what it does is it also signals the female if any interested females are around. So with that chemical coming around, they'll feel more happy, and there is some male which is sexually active, and they'll come towards that male. So that is a way of chemical signaling in elephants. So once the female elephant become pregnant, she give birth to one baby once. Okay, this only one baby they give birth to, like it's like a human. And so one of the most interesting fact is the gestation period is around 22 to 23 months. In case of human, it is 9 months. So it is for almost 2 years. It takes 2 years for baby elephant to grow inside mother. An elephant becomes sexually active, the female elephant, till she is in the age of 50. So it's quite similar to humans. So how do elephants communicate? How do Bhunte communicate with other elephants? So there are different ways of signaling. One is tactile signaling. Tactile signaling means they touch the trunk of the elephants. They sniff. They come and sniff the other individual. So the way they touch involves such kind of communication is called tactile. If the elephants are far apart, they also use acoustic signal. You may have heard, no, trumpeting, elephant trumpeting. So such kind of signals are called acoustic. And like I said earlier, they also use chemical signal where they secrete different kind of chemical to actually communicate with other elephants or male or a female. So one of the interesting study that me and my friend, my colleague in Indian Institute of Science, we found that elephant also grieve for the death of their relatives. It's exactly like humans. So if someone dies in their family, they actually feel sad. And if you guys are really interested about, to know more about it, if you guys want to read about it, I can send you my paper. So the such behavior where, elephant reacts or any animal reacts towards the death, such kind of behavior is called thanatology. Okay, the term thanatology. Thanatology is the branch of science where we study the death response of animal towards the dead individual. So now you understood, right? Elephants are such a complicated animals. They are exactly like human. They have also sense of bereavement. They have also, they communicate with each other, and all this information is there. So why I felt it is, important to study elephants. Why one of you guys, once you grow, join college and then want to become a scientist, why it is important to study elephants? Well, elephants are known as umbrella species. They have lots of ecological values. Umbrella species in a sense, if you conserve elephants, there are many other tiny animals, many other small mammals, and also the habitat is going to get protected. So that's the reason, because elephants are big animals, like Yamini said, right? So elephants are big animals, they need big home. So in that home, there are other animals also living in it. So if you conserve elephants, there are other habitat or other animal that is going to get conserved. So we call them as a umbrella species. Elephants are seed disperser. There are many plant which relies on elephant for germinating. What elephant do is they feed for 16 hours and they sleep for 8 hours. So 16 hours they keep on eating and then walking around. In due process, what happens? They eat different kind of fruits, seeds, and they defecate. So that helps in providing the nutrient for plant, the seedlings to germinate. So they are also known as seed disperser. Elephants are also called ecosystem engineers. If you guys must have heard about savanna elephants. Savanna elephants were the one which were responsible for the savanna grassland to come. They used to break the trees, they used to make a path, and there are many engineers, human engineers who use the path taken by elephants to make a road, because those roads are very stable road. So elephants can be considered as ecosystem engineers. And there was recent study where they found that elephants are also a micro habitat creator. What does that mean? So they found in African elephant, when elephant walk around, since they are very heavy, right? So they create an impression on the ground, and on that impression there will be water accumulating, creating a small puddle. And they found that in that puddle there were more than 1,000 different microorganisms. That means they were creating a home for a small organism that which we can't see directly. So they are also a microhabitat creator. So now, since I told you about why it is important for us to study elephant, and you guys now know that they have lots of ecological values, But also, in addition, there are other aspects that we need to understand about elephants. And that's why I got motivated to study elephants. So if you see in this map, the light red color, the light pink color is the places where elephants used to be there. And but now if you see the darker colors, these are the areas where elephants are found recently. These are the current distribution areas of elephants. That means if you see this, if you calculate it, it has been shown that they are only found in 6% of their historical range, and that also only in 13 countries. That means their habitat, their home is rapidly declining, right? So it is really unfortunate to see that. So that is why it is important to understand that how such decline in elephant could influence the elephant. And another thing you guys must have seen, elephants are kept in zoo. Now you guys know that elephants love to roam around freely. They can roam around 1,000 kilometers. So, you know, they have a huge home range. But what people do is they tie elephants with chain in the captivity. And some of the captivity are really good when, you know, they follow scientific way of keeping elephants. They don't have a concrete floor and so on. But most of the captivity, they are insensitive. So in such situation, elephants are going through lots of physiological and behavioral changes. Thus, it is important to study elephants and also to see that how such thing can influence the health of elephant. Now you can see, right? We have a question in our mind that why and how insensitive captivity can influence the health of the elephant. That is a science. That is a question that you have in your mind. So that's how we create question. The third important thing is poaching. You guys must have heard, no? Many elephants are killed for their ivory. And then now there's a recent trend that elephants are also killed for skin because they want leather bag, they want leather jacket. So, and in addition, they are killing elephant for meat, to eat elephant meat, exotic meat. So all these factors are slowly hampering one of the most intelligent animal on the earth. Now, on the top of it, in context of India particularly, you guys, if you follow news, you can see, you know, many elephants die in railway collision, many elephants are killed on the roadside. So all these factors are threat for elephants, and thus it is important for us to understand that how such kind of disturbances can influence elephant and how we can control such kind of disturbances. And elephants which are in the forest area, and if they move from one forest to another forest, they are actually, you know, they use electric fence to prevent that from happening. So what happens is many elephants, because they do not know that electric fence have high voltage current, and they die of electric shock. So there are multiple such kind of threats. In this is the story, not the story, the reality in Sri Lanka, where they, you know, this is the most cruel thing. I think if you guys follow the news, this happened recently in Kerala as well. So but Kerala, they kept it for wild boar. In Sri Lanka, they keep it for elephants. So what they do is inside the vegetable, they keep crackers, like powerful crackers. When elephants see those crackers, the vegetable, they come and eat. And what happens is it bursts inside the mouth of elephants, making it, you know, it won't die immediately. It will die agonizing death because it won't be able to eat, it won't be able to drink because its trunk is gone. So such kind of cruel practices are also used in different elephant ranging countries. So now you see that there are multiple threats to such magnificent, such giant elephants, and thus it is important for us to understand and study elephants. And on the top of it, there's something called irresponsible tourism industry. They use elephant for football. In Nepal, in my country, they use elephant. There's something called elephant football competition where they actually use elephant and for football to attract tourists, and they make elephant to play football. So, you know, and many such irresponsible tourism example can be seen in different countries like Thailand and also in some part of India. So if you see now that there are so many threats that are happening, that are, you know, threatening elephants. Now we also know that how important elephants are, you know, what kind of strong bonding they have, and now we also know that multiple threats are there for the kind animal like that. And sadly, elephant can't speak. In our case, we can speak, we can fight, we can protest, we can, go on hunger strike. But animal like elephants and other animal, despite of this cruelty, they can't speak and share their agony. So this is where I thought, I got it. It inspired me to know that what is happening to elephants. Let me see that, when elephant come out of the habitat where they are facing lots of disturbances from human, what is happening to them. That's where I studied the stress in elephants. So in the stress, if you just focus on this picture, when elephant gets stressed, there is something called hypothalamus and pituitary gland in the brain of elephant which gets activated, okay? And this signals the kidney. There is something called adrenal gland. So I'm not going to tell you the technical terms. Whoever is interested to know more about stress physiology, please write an email to me and I'll explain all this thing to you. So what adrenal glands does is, it secretes the hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is also known as stress hormone. So the more stress you are, and this cortisol gets secreted in all the humans, all the animals. So if you are really stressed or you are, really tense, so the cortisol hormone actually helps elephant or humans to fight against any kind of disturbances. But imagine if such kind of disturbances are there for a prolonged period, then that will be detrimental to health of elephants. So what I thought was, let me measure the cortisol in elephant. So the cortisol hormone can be measured using blood sample, but I did not collect the blood sample because collecting a blood sample from wild elephant is not easy. Second thing, you collecting blood sample is ethical, right? It's not ethical. So I avoided anything that requires handling animal, because I'll be creating a problem to that elephant. And third important thing, but it will create stress in elephant. So that is the reason what I did was I avoided collecting blood sample and I focused on collecting dung sample. You can see the fresh dung sample. So what I used to do in the forest is I used to follow the elephants in the forest, and once the elephant defecate, I collect the fresh dung sample, I bring it to lab, I powder it, and then study the different kind of hormones. So again, I won't talk about the detail of scientific thing that I have done, but whoever is interested, we'll share, again, we'll have a discussion about it. So now, since it's the end of the presentation and I want to discuss with you guys, you have set of questions. Now I just want to, say it to you guys, all the students who are listening to me. Now you guys know that what is the threat that elephants are facing through, and only me or few scientists coming to rescue elephant is not going to help. So you guys should study really hard that you become a scientist, elephant scientist, come forth and find a better solution to prevent all this adverse interaction happening for elephants, which is threatening their life. So the Bhunte elephant is requesting you all the students, that they need more of us, they need more of our science, and they need a safe place to stay in. With this, I would like to take the question that I have listed here. Sunil has asked question, Mohan has asked question. So there are so many students, 17 students, they have asked questions. So I'd like to, answer one by one. So Sunil asked that what are your great memories and experience in the wild forest and with elephants? How and when did you know that this profession best suits you? Wonderful question, I must say. All the questions are really, it's worthy question that you guys have. So I have multiple memories and experience of the forest, and there are many funny incidences. There were very dangerous incidences where I was chased by elephants, and I work in the forest where there are not only elephants, there are tigers, there are leopards. So I have many risky incidences and experiences. So I just want to share you one funny incident. So when I wrote a question, when I saw that this is what is happening to elephant, so I sat down and wrote all the questions that I want to address. This question on elephants, I want to study this as for my PhD, and I went to talk to my professor. My professor is Raman Sukumar, who is also known as Elephant Man of India. He's one of the finest elephant scientists in the world. So when I told him that I have this question that I want to answer, and I want to collect 10 samples per day. So he was just smiling. He said, yeah, please go ahead and do it. But when I went to forest, I realized that, forest itself is very dense, and sighting an elephant is again a Herculean task. It's very tough. And I sighted elephant group, but it is not like, oh, Sanjita is here, let me defecate. They won't defecate, right? So I used to wait for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So the defecation rate of elephant is every 2 hours. So they used to 2 hours they used to defecate. And the thing is, there are traffic of elephants. There used to be so many elephants coming and going. So it was really hard for me to collect the dung sample. So the maximum number of sample that I collected was 2 or 3 in a day. So it may sound that, oh, it's really easy task, but it is really tough to be inside the forest. How and when did you know that the profession best suits you? Well, I, like everyone, I wanted to be medical doctor, and because everyone was running behind being medical doctor in Nepal. So, but my dad and my mother actually inspired me to, because they have seen me being more inclined towards nature and towards wildlife science. So they actually inspired me, saying that anybody can become doctor, but to be a doctor for animals who do not have voice is, the best thing that can happen. So that's how my mother and my parents actually supported me a lot. And you won't believe, it's more than 14 years now that I have been working inside the forest. And now let me go to Mohan's question. What are some challenges that you faced in your life?
I'm so sorry to cut you off. In case if it would be easy, I will read out the questions and you can go ahead and answer, or we will tag the concerned person. I mean, we'll tag the student.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Mohan, yeah. Thank you. So Mohan, can you go ahead with your question? Ask ma'am the question that you had.
Yes, Didi.
Yeah.
So, thank you, ma'am, for attending our session and giving a useful time to us. So, my question is, what are some challenges that you faced in your life? How did you overcome them, ma'am?
Yeah, thanks, Mohan. Thank you so much. And like I was saying, there are many challenges that came to my life. Is my internet? Are you guys able to hear me? I think my internet.
Yeah.
It's fluctuating. So there were multiple challenges that came to my life, and I lost my mother recently when I was in forest. So despite that, it never made me feel depressed, or I in fact felt more happy. And since my childhood, I've been writing poems, and there are many such struggles that came to my life, which are very personal to me. And but I'm telling you that when you guys have a strong passion to do something, nothing is going to stop you. So, and the how did I overcome? So I overcome because I have that strong passion that I want to do something for elephants and for the animals. That was my inspiration since childhood. So you guys are the right phase of your life, and you won't believe that I studied from a very remote part of Nepal. Nepal itself is a remote, and I studied in a remote part of Nepal. And there was no one to guide us that, oh, you can be a wildlife scientist, you can do this. Nowadays, you guys have internet, you have so many opportunity to interact, you have classes like this where you can talk to us. But in that period, it was all in us that, that spirit to do something for life. So that's how it always inspired me. So I also request you guys to always think that what you can do, because anybody can get job, anybody can get money, and they can settle in life, they can have a house, they can have a car, but that is not actually the motto of life. The motto of life is to give something to the community. So in my case, I choose animal over human community. So I want to do something for animals. All right, Mohan, thank you. Anyone? So Srikshita, sorry, can you? Yeah,
Srikshita, go ahead with your question.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Srikshita. So my questions are: how does it feel to be an elephant biologist? Why did you become an elephant biologist? Do you like elephants? If yes, why?
And
yeah,
awesome. So. Yeah, thank you so much. You have a very sweet voice. So how does it feel to be an elephant biologist? I feel very fortunate to be an elephant biologist, to study about elephant, to be in the forest, to observe their family. There were many moments in the forest when I saw elephants and I have literally cried. And since I'm a poet and also a scientist, I have both emotion and also logic there. So, and when I see elephant every day, it's like every day I see elephant, but it's the same level of excitement that I have. I won't say, oh, I have seen elephant yesterday, because elephants, it's like, it's very fortunate thing that can happen to me, and to be an elephant biologist. And also would like to say you guys that I'm the first woman elephant biologist of Nepal. So there are no elephant biologists who are female in Nepal. There are few men biologists working on elephants. Why do you become an elephant biologist? Like I told you earlier, that there are many things that elephant offer us ecologically, and there are many threats that are hampering elephants. So that's where, you know, I wanted to be the elephant biologist, to understand what is happening to them. Do you like elephants? Of course I like elephants. I in fact love elephants. And you know, if there is such opportunity to be some animal, I would love to be an elephant. So Siriksikta, thank you so much for such a nice question. Now Tejasri.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tejasri, are you there? Can you go ahead? Okay, I think Ma'am Tejasri is not here. Maybe she's joined, but then I think she has some network fluctuations.
Okay, so I'll just answer her question.
Yeah. So the next three questions are, I mean, there are a few questions which are asking you about how to become a scientist, what is the process, and you know, how did you choose, and is there something that you have to be very good at, and what are some of the tips? So these are some of the questions that all of them were asking.
Okay, so yeah. Yeah. So see, like I told you, to be a scientist, anybody is a scientist. Even a child who is asking question, I consider them as a scientist, because they have lots of curiosity. So the thing you need to know is, you know, you need to have is a curiosity in your mind. You need to have why things are happening around, how things are happening, what is that thing that is happening. That is one philosophical way of being scientist. But now to become a scientist as a profession, you have to study really hard. You know, there are lots of competition happening in India and also in the world. People are really progressing in science, so you have to study really hard, and there are different examination to get into IISc. You won't believe, you know, there are more than 5,000 applications that apply, that every year student apply to get into IISc, and there are only few hundreds, not even 100, only few people who get selected to be in Indian Institute of Science. So it doesn't, I'm not discouraging you guys, but you know, try to do your best in your study, and also to understand what is happening around the world, and the different kind of examination that's happening. So but many people, what they do is they focus in examination, and they sideline their passion. So try to see what you want to do. And right now itself, I want to inspire you guys that start thinking of questions. Like I thought that what could be happening to elephants' health when they are in different disturbance area. So similar kind of question you start having in your mind. I hope it helps. Yeah, Balalakshmi.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, ma'am. So Sairaj had a next question. Who do you have any scientist who inspired you? Who is your biggest inspiration?
Oh, wonderful. So I have many scientists that have inspired me. One of them is Ramanujan, because he had that spiritual way of living and also had a very gifted mind. Madame Curie, of course, the ways she has struggled for finding radium. And there are many such scientists. And to talk in particular from India, my professor Raman Sukumar, he is one of my inspiration, because he's known, as I said, he's known as Elephant Man of India, and he's extremely good on knowing elephants. And there is another professor called Raghavendra Gadekar. Professor Raghavendra Gadekar, he is amazing. The way he puts forth the question, the way he, you know, says about processes happening around. So it's amazing. So I also want to request you guys, you know, rather than always focusing on foreign or focusing on scientists from abroad, you should also see that good scientists are available in India. They are extremely brilliant scientists. Try to follow their work. They have, so Professor Raghavendra Gadekar, he has started writing articles in a very late term, like for the students and all. So try to read those articles and try to see that how logically he is thinking. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. I think Nandini's and Ramya's questions you have definitely like answered through your presentation. So we will go forth with the Bhavyashri's question. Have you faced any difficulties while studying? So what kept you going while studying for this? You mentioned to us that it's a little hard and you will have to excel in everything that you're doing. So what is something that you faced a difficulty while studying, and what kept you going forward with it?
Awesome. So see, there are multiple difficulties if you try to see. If you see the personal front, the personal life, I lost my mother during my study. That was one thing that I was tackling. In addition to that, I was working in the forest. Being a woman working inside the forest, you can understand that, you know, there are no houses, and I used to stay inside the forest most of the time. So there were many such logistic challenges that I used to face. I had to travel every 200 kilometers to get food to eat. I could not cook food because I used to go to forest 6 a.m. and come back by 8 p.m. So I used to be inside the forest. So these were some minor challenges which anybody can tackle. And regarding the study science, so once I bring the sample in the lab, I have to analyze the sample. I built up a protocol to analyze hormone, and many times it used to fail. There were some of the experiment I do for 5 days continuously, and in the end, when I get the result is entirely different. So there were multiple failures that came, but that's a part of the life, you know. Don't be upset if your experiment fails or you fail in your study. Don't think that, oh, I'm a gone case, I can't do anything. But that actually motivates you. Let me do this way, let me find that way. So that's how that gave me a clarity. If there was no adversity in my life, trust me, I don't think I would have become a scientist, or I would have been where I am right now. So there were many adversity that came to my life, and I'll definitely share with this. But this thing were quite personal thing that has happened to me, and professionally also there will be lots of failure coming up. There will be many rejection that comes up in your way, but this should not sideline your passion. You should always have that, you know, voice or that spirit glowing inside you.
Thank you so much for sharing that so beautifully, ma'am. So, Jatin wanted to know, what are some of your strengths and weaknesses, and how did you go about identifying them?
Wonderful, Jatin. I am really, you know, the level of question you guys have kept, I am very happy. You know, you guys have that kind of curious mind now itself, and I'm pretty sure those who put forth the question, you guys are going to be one of the finest scientists in your future. So you said, Jatin said that what are my strengths? As I said, my strength is confidence. I have super level of confidence. I don't fear anyone. And I have a very, you know, I have a passion inside my heart that I want to do something. That is my strength. My weakness is I sometimes tend to be lazy. You know, I want to lie down and let me do this work later. So that is, I think, human nature. And sometimes I overthink about whether I'm doing it correct or not, whether I should do it that way, that. But that is also I consider as a strength. My weakness, of course, is laziness. Sometimes I feel very lazy, and everyone, you guys also must have experienced it. How do I? Yeah. Somebody else.
No. Yes, ma'am. That was by mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. Yeah. Strength and weakness, I think I shared.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think Pravalika's question was around, did you have any goal first itself to become an elephant biologist, or you know, how did you fix the goal and achieve that goal? Like, how did you plan for it, basically?
I think 11, 12 and 13, Pravalika, Sankar and Manisha questions are quite similar.
Yeah. What are your future goals, and what is the hardest decision that you had to make?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, that I also wanted to become a medical doctor. That was because I was seeing what is happening around my vicinity, and because I was a child like you, I don't know, not like you guys, at least around 16 or 17 years old I was. So I was also, you know, I did not have that kind of vision in my mind, but I wanted to do something for animals. That was there since my childhood, because I was from the area where there was forest around me, and we were inside the buffer area, so many animals used to visit us. So that's what always inspired me. And to become an elephant biologist, that actually fueled when I came to IISc, Indian Institute of Science. So during my, you know, after my master's, I applied for PhD in University of Michigan and Indian Institute of Science, and I got selected for both. I got selected in USA and I got selected in India. But then I thought a lot, and I decided to come to India because I wanted to work in the forest of India. In USA, I would have gone, and most of my work would have been computer related, or to be in the forest, which I am not familiar with. So because India was quite familiar to, it's quite similar to Nepal, so I came to India, and that's where, and then I started reading about what is happening in India. The first thing that ISC does is, ISC, when you join Indian Institute of Science, they don't tell you what question you want to work on. They won't say it to you. You have to find your question on yourself. So what I did was I started reading about elephants, and I saw the news, what is happening around, and I saw that many elephants are being killed, many humans are being killed. People are blaming elephants. People are blaming humans.
Yeah.
And there are, most of the research were only focusing on what kind of conflicts are happening and all this thing, but nobody was studying what is happening to elephants. And that's what inspired me. That is why I studied the elephant. And yeah, this was some of the hardest decision also I took, that many people, if they were there, they would have gone to USA than to come to India, but I choose to be in India. Thanks everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
I think, I think Amulya's question also you've answered before. Who supported you throughout your journey? Yes, ma'am. So Deepika had a very interesting question. So Deepika, would you like to go ahead with this question, or do you want me to say? Okay, I will ask on your behalf. So why do we see a lot of scientists who are men? Why is it that women scientists are less in number? What are the challenges did you face being a girl in this field?
Wonderful, Deepika, your question is very relevant. So I think the structure, if you see now, but the trends are changing, that there are more women coming in front line, and like you said, like I've been saying, that Nepal and India, culturally, most of the times women, once they get educated, they tend to marry, and then they have lots of family responsibility, that they they suppress their passion most of the time. But surprisingly, if you see most of the scientists, women scientists in Indian Institute of Science, most of them are married, they have kids. And there was one of my professor, Kavita Iswaran, she was pregnant when she used to come and teach us the statistic. So there are women who are now taking it as a challenges. They are really inspiring themselves, motivating themselves. But if you see that if you see in the past also, there are many strong women scientists, though the number may be few because of societal pressure and all this thing. Madame Curie, and then there are many other scientists that have come forth, and they have done wonderful contribution to the science. So yeah, and in context of Nepal and India, I think it's more about societal pressure, that people think that okay, it was and again the thing is, it was in the past. Nowadays things are changing slowly, and I see many women in the field of science, and there are many women colleagues that I have in ISC and Smithsonian USA. My professor from Smithsonian USA, she is a woman, and she's been working on elephant past 40 years. So there are many such women. I think it's just that there are few numbers, again, like because of, it could be because of societal pressure, and their goal may change. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So finally, Anjali is asking, what motivated you to write poetry, and what are your other hobbies?
Wonderful, Anjali, thank you. So poetry, since childhood only I was writing poem. I remember I wrote my first poem when I was just 5 years old. So I think it's kind of gifted thing that I have in my mind, that whenever I see something that poetry or some creative thing comes in my mind. And I think that being a poet has actually helped me a lot to do science, because poetry gives you fantastic imagination. You imagine things which logic fails to imagine. So that and yeah, so before I used to write more poetry on politics related thing. Then I started writing poetry on spirituality, and then I have shifted writing poetry on nature and stuff around. And most of the time when I used to follow elephants, observe elephants, I used to write small poem in my field notebook. Other hobbies, like you guys saw the cartoon today, most of the drawings I drew, every drawing I drew, whatever you guys saw. So I love drawings, I love cartoons, I do sketching and all, and I also dance sometimes. Yeah, these are my hobbies, and actually these hobbies have helped me a lot to, garnish myself as a scientist.
Amazing, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking in the effort to actually curate these slides for all of us, and for making us understand how important it is to conserve wildlife, and especially elephants. And very different interesting facts about elephants that you have presented to us. And despite of your health condition, you were here with us, very patiently answering all the questions. I mean, I think I really like to thank you for doing that, ma'am, today for us. Yeah,
I think somebody is trying to draw Sravanti, Hastika. I think you guys are already becoming a cartoonist. I'm really happy to see that.
No, actually there is an annotate thing by mistake.
I think they're just
trying. Click on the screen. I think that will just come off. So I think it was by mistake. Shouldn't be.
It's okay. I mean, I can see that.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to thank Bala Lakshmi again, and also all the students who attended this class. And I hope I may not have done things to drastically change you, but I am pretty sure that small changes may happen to you. And I thank everyone. And before going off, I want to request you not to ride any elephants when you go for safari and tourism, because you riding elephants, you are also endorsing to inspire people to do more torture to animals, and also in our case elephant. So with that request, I thank everyone, and I will stop sharing the slide now.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody who would like to share your takeaways, anybody who would like to wish ma'am, and please go ahead and do that. Come off mute.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming here and spending your valuable time with us. And I am very inspired of your speech, means your presentation, ma'am. And actually, I love elephants more. I saw many elephants, but I never had a experience. But with your presentation, I am imagining I was there in the situation, and it's very means I cannot imagine I cannot tell my words, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else, guys?
Didi, here I want to highlight a point. Here, Didi Varalakshmi Didi likes elephants the most, more than anyone here. Like more than we enjoyed. Like this session was enjoyed by Didi the most.
No, I always keep sharing with them about elephants and all of that, and tell them that I really admire elephants. They're so cute animals. That's what I tell them. So yeah. So I'm really glad as well. I had a lot of learnings from the session also, along with my students. So I'm very happy for that. Thank you, Yamini, for highlighting that point. Yeah. Anybody else, guys? Romika, Sunil, Vishal, would you like to go ahead? Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. It's great interacting with you. From you, I got to know many things about elephant and how to treat elephant. I'll try to think of a solution for the elephant stress.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome, Romika. I'm very happy. You will emerge as an elephant scientist sooner.
Okay. Guys, I think we've come to the end of the session. I think we can end it here in case you do not have. Yeah, Sunil, would you like to share anything? You were coming up.
Yes, Didi, from that time waiting.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Didi, thank you, Didi, for coming here, and it was wonderful talking, Didi, with you. You are multi-talented. You do so many things at once, and whatever you're doing, you excel, Didi, in that.
Thank you so much, Sunil. It means a lot.
You will be a very big inspiration there.
Thank you so much.
I want to tell it from long back. Everyone telling.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. It means a lot.
Thank you, Didi.
It means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your valuable time. I think we will definitely take all these small steps and, definitely think about, conservation of wildlife and conservation of elephants and how to treat all these animals. Also us to imbibe empathy from animals, I think. Yeah, right. So we'll also try to show empathy to each other, and you rightly pointed out all the values also that we all have to operate with as citizens. I think thank you so much for today, and
thanks, Naralakshmi.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think
I would love to see them. The worst thing I told you that my camera for some reason is not working. So once the pandemic gets over, I think we should meet all of you guys, and
that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
I'll be in the forest that time. I'll be in Bandipur or Nagarhole, so you guys are most welcome. I can't take you inside the forest because there are some permission issue, but we will have some session live, or you can come to IISc where we can discuss all the thing in person.
Wow, amazing. I think we would definitely connect with you more often now that, all of these students are also, very excited about this. I will definitely reach out to you in case of these students if they have some career doubts on these lines and everything. Thank you so much.
You can share my email ID to them, and I'm in Instagram, I'm in all the social media. I'm very active on social media because I use social media as one of the platform to talk about elephants, advocate about elephants. And also Bhunte has Instagram, Bhunte has blog, so you can join Bhunte.
I think we will be quick. I mean, we will be very curious followers to that blog of yours, and I think we will definitely enjoy all the stories that you write there.
Thank you so much.
Also, to be able to operate with that sense of curiosity, something we all will try to imbibe, so that asking more questions, asking more why questions, I think is very, very important, that you've rightly pointed out. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mahalakshmi. So I can go off now?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank
See
you
you soon. Yes, see you everyone. Bye bye. Have a nice day.